and welcome to yet another edition of Time Pass. I have with me Atul Dodiya, who's one of India's finest contemporary artists, finest artists. And what I especially like and love about his work is the way he's able to erase these so-called barriers between low art and highbrow art and popular culture and high culture. He just mixes it all up so beautifully and makes art so accessible to all of us that it's a real pleasure. I'm really privileged to introduce you to our audience and to our viewers and readers. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Dodiya. How are you, and how has the lockdown been for you as an artist? You've been very busy, right?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be talking to you, Kaveri. It's, well, of course, it's been almost 4.5 months
Yes.
now that we are under lockdown. And the initial first 3.5 months, I knew that, this is going to happen. So what I did is that I just took some small scale papers and watercolors, because that's what you could do, even at home or in a small room. A
Right.
large oil painting is not possible, or oil painting in general, because you need linseed oil, turpentine. It's a bit process is a bit different compared to simple watercolors. So I said I would just do some small works on paper, and that's how I have been doing.
And more than 140 works, right?
Well,
Amazing.
well, yeah, bit embarrassing, but I have been doing every day one single work,
Right.
and that's how I was enjoying. And what I liked about, and I didn't want to interrupt the piece, because I realized that I was taking. Um, First, I knew that, and I'm not going to show this to immediately to anyone. There is no commitment to any galleries or participation in any exhibitions or something. So just enjoy, play
Right.
here, play. So I just I thought that I would do whatever comes to my mind, or whatever I could kind of, I can change, I can dramatically shift my subject matter or whatever. So that freedom was something extremely important. I mean, not that when I'm in studio and when I'm professionally participating, there is no freedom, nothing like that. Freedom is always there, but at the same time, here there was uh, I would say that the lockdown is the best excuse to be recluse.
That's
You
true.
know? Yeah, because you see, I was not, no one was able to, I couldn't go anywhere. I had no access to friends or, studio space or otherwise. And everyone was in that kind of a situation. So initial 2.5 months was absolutely just nothing. Be at home with family and do your own work and watch great movies in the evening. That's what I'm doing.
And three artists in one family, your wife, your daughter, you. I mean,
Yes.
I can't imagine the dinner table conversation. Must be fabulous.
Well, yeah, it's always been, my daughter, when she was young, even then, she would hear all those ideas about art and what we feel about, we've seen something. So, yeah, it's always been like that. And luckily, now she's also an artist and fond of literature, fond of cinema. So, we kind of decide in the evening. Sometimes we do a kind of a festival of a filmmaker, own festival, at home.
What have you been watching, Mr. Dodiya?
Well, actually, to begin with, of course, the masters from Europe, like say Antonioni and Pasolini, Italian. Then there is Paragino and Tarkovsky, Russians,
Right.
Dard and Truffaut, and then of course Cassavet and Coppola. I mean, it's a mixed up thing, whatever we feel. And of course, our own Indians like,
Yeah.
and sometimes even, I would say, Ritvik Ghatak.
Right.
So these are the kind of, like things which we have seen already at
Right.
some point. And so look at, watch them, those movies. But then there are, of course, because of now, YouTube and Netflix is there, but then there's a movie and prime time and many,
Right.
options to choose, film. So some short films,
Right.
whether documentaries by German filmmaker
Right.
Werner Herzog. So
So
stuff.
fabulous stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anyone would give anything to be part of your home film festivals.
Yes.
But all these people have also featured in your work, you know, whether it's Tufo or Satyajit Ray. I mean, that iconic Charulata image, the way you've used it is so fabulous. And my favorite, actually, of yours for filmic reference is actually Rahman, the actor Rahman, and you used him so beautifully. I always wondered what happened to him. He was just one of our finest actors. So your love for cinema is so much part of your art and your joy in it. How did that develop?
Well, actually, very early, at the age of 10, I was clear that I want to be a painter. I
Right.
was good in drawing and painting. And so that's there. But I think it was in 72 when Bombay Doordarshan started
Uh-huh.
in Bombay, you know.
Right.
So they were showing, Sundays Hindi film movies, and then
Yeah.
Saturdays some regional films, and alternate Saturdays it would be European good cinema, you
Right.
know. So I started watching that, but at the same time at home, my mother was a great film buff,
Right.
and she was of course watching mostly Hindi films and she would talk about the movies of 50s,
Hmm.
probably early 60s. That is the films of Dilip Kumar and Devan and Raj Kapoor, that kind of a thing. So the Hindi film music is something which is very, very dear to me and to all my family.
Right.
And I have one more thing I forgot to tell you that apart from doing my own paintings and watching movies, reading little bit, but I have been listening constantly for 3 hours when working at a stretch on one particular painting, listening to Radio Ceylon.
Wow.
Yes, in early days, the Radio Ceylon to get a band and on the
Yes,
radio.
I know how tough it used to be.
Yes, exactly.
What
But
do
now
they play now? What do they play now?
still on, and they still sort of are regular from 6 to 8. And the last song at 8 o'clock used to be KL Saigal's song, so that would
Right.
still the same pattern they follow. And
Okay.
and yeah, but I listen to their link on YouTube, so it's
Okay.
audio. So I listen to music, and I'm a great fan of Hindi film songs, particularly
Right.
of 50s. So I've been listening to 40s and 50s song a lot, and I
Wow.
have discovered so many new names, in terms of, and it's also so many unknown songs,
Right.
which is very, very special, I feel.
Do you sing
And
along?
I saw friends. Sorry,
Do
no,
you
not
sing along?
not no, no. But I also noticed that the what I do in my painting while changing a form or adding a tone or um, shifting certain color from one to another, it's very much like music.
Yeah.
If you listen to music of Anil Biswas or Salil
Right.
Chaudhary,
Right.
Naushad,
Yeah.
ST, but all this, I mean, how 3 minute song, but
Right.
so many, the pauses and the use of instruments, where how the tone and the wordings, all that, great poets were there.
Right.
So well, that's one thing which I have been kind of thoroughly enjoying as well.
So the works that we saw, which you shared with us, do they have that influence as well of that music? Do they connect to that music?
Well, actually, I mean, yeah, it's very difficult to talk about visual art and the art of sound, that's
Yeah.
music. It's difficult to pinpoint, but
Right.
instinctively I understand. Okay, this is how much sweet my image or my surface should remain, or how much kind of raw or rough I should
Right.
create. And that's what even one hears in the music, that how the pitch they would take, or how the soft and melody should kind of flow.
Hmm.
So I think um, that way I only know, and then even I can't actually exactly pinpoint, but this is what I did. But if the works are there, I can say that how I change the image, and how sometimes it doesn't work. You have an idea and you start with something and you do it, but you're not happy.
Hmm.
So what to do? So then you have to add something or change something or make some area, overlap with another form or another
Right.
image. All that we do, yeah.
Right. So, would you like to walk us through very quickly through through your recent work?
Well, we can see those, the 5 images which I sent
Yes.
you. And essentially, these works are about, well, the very first one was a kind of a drawing with little work on it, which I
Right.
had in the studio, which is
Right.
of Saint Francis,
Oh,
actually,
oh,
in a wilderness or in a
right.
kind of, in a hills and mountains. So basically, all my paintings which I did, they are more about, a solitary figure in
Right.
a landscape.
Right.
Either someone is looking at the something or there's a sky, clouds,
Right.
river,
Right.
hill,
Right.
tree, mountain. So all these things, and what happens, that nature is always changing. If you say
Right.
sky or if you say clouds, so I have a tremendous amount of freedom
Hmm.
in kind of changing even in my own work. Whether
Right.
I'm not happy, I would. If the sky is too bright and too flat, I may have to make it more dramatic. I may add a bit a heavy dark cloud
Hmm.
into it. So that that kind of freedom I got from nature. But when I think that why a solitary one human being, whether a boy, man, woman, or girl in a landscape, I think probably also that we were all stuck in our
Exactly.
confined to our home
Yeah.
and in some private space. And what I see um, the world is only through my window.
Hmm.
And of course, I mean, the media, that's television, and otherwise, you do get information about the world, but otherwise, so this is it um, craving or is it like a need to go out? That's why I'm doing. I don't know, but
Hmm.
I think I am a great admirer of Indian miniature painting
Hmm.
as well as the early Italian masters.
Right.
Pre-Renaissance masters.
Right.
So I think it's just um, urge or need to kind of do this kind of a very pastoral probably or doesn't look contemporary. It may
No,
look
it doesn't. And also, your colors are very dark.
yeah. Some of the works
Yeah.
has darker
Yeah.
tone.
I
Maybe
think that reflects the times we're living in.
yeah. I think generally I don't like to connect, things like that. But maybe, like if we see together a large body of work, and then we could say that maybe the tonality, the color, you know, in my building where I live,
Hmm.
where you take a lift from ground floor, they have notice board. So someone has done a very clumsy drawing of a boy doing a person doing yoga, and it's
Uh-huh.
written, "You can't go out, go in."
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so probably it's
That's
some
very well said.
yeah. So I said, well, it's probably something of that sort, I may be uh, attempting here. But, no reference, no quotations, no popular culture, no nothing, no literature. So I said, I don't judge yourself. Just,
Right.
just, just allow and let's see what happens. So every day, one work, second work, third work, it was happening and that pace remained. So I was almost like on you understand cricket, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I know who doesn't in India, but it's like like if you're on about you're on a crease and on 70 or 80 runs, then
Right.
you do 100. And then again, like after tea or the next day, again if you are playing well and you are about to reach 200.
Right.
So and if lucky, which is rare, if someone is doing triple century,
Right.
I think I am on my I just finished or I am on my verge to achieve the triple century in my so no distraction.
Right.
So when people ask me about what I'm doing or write something or some for a gallery note or something, I said I don't want to utter
Right.
basically. Just leave me alone. At least this is something very special time. Which of course at the same time doing your own work, watching movies at your home with your family is one thing. At the same time when you see outside
Yeah.
the the way they were pushed or they had to leave the, cities where
Yes.
they were working, all it was very extremely painful, no
Yeah.
doubt. So how people must be, I mean, walking, you know,
Yeah. For miles. For
for
miles. Yeah.
miles. That's something which was really disturbing. So I think something of that sort also has all the imageries
I
later.
think so. I think so. But I wanted to say, when I see your Shutter series,
Yes.
sometimes I think how prophetic in a way you were. We were all shuttered actually in a way in these last 5 months. We were
Yeah.
all in a way behind that shutter, and were we observing ourselves behind the shutter, or were we inside observing ourselves, or fantasizing about ourselves outside? Sometimes I think how prophetic that Shutter series is. Do you want to talk a little about that?
Well, of course, when I first initially did shutters, it was, because any metropolis, like
Yes.
you have shops on the street,
Right.
and the young art students from the JG School of Art, I used to come late, catching last train.
Hmm.
At that time, all the streets are empty, the shutters are down.
Right.
And there
And
are,
from JJ to Ghatkopar, that must have been, how long was that train
well,
ride?
it's almost 45 to 50 minutes train ride, and, to go to Victoria Terminus, that's
Right.
VT station. And my art school, my college was there, and galleries were all located on that side. So Ghatkopar is a northeastern suburb where I live, and I still live. I was born here, and I still paint here.
That is
So
quite marvelous about you, actually.
yeah,
Remain rooted to where you began.
I am quite very happy, and the location, and the how the city is changing, all that was happening. But about the shutters, that when I used to see those painted image on the shutters, whether
Right.
it's general store or a chemist shop or something, uh, which I thought, what if I one paint instead of flat canvas?
Yeah.
If this corrugated surface of the shutter, it is difficult to paint. At the same time, in art world, people are talking about conceptual art, and new media is coming, and painting is passe, painting is dead, things like that, internationally as well. And I said, okay, painting is still not dead. Painting has a profound possibility still. So I said, how to make painting difficult, or so painting on the surface of shutter is difficult.
Very
But
tough.
was an idea which I had. But then I think it was, we are talking today, and I want to talk about the Babri Masjid demolition in
Exactly.
82,
Yeah.
and then subsequent riots and curfews were announced. Bombay has gone through a serial bomb blast. All that we have
And
experienced.
Bombay changed completely.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think during that time, we noticed that how specific communities, specific shops were chosen, burned,
Yes.
destroyed, and people lost lives and livelihood, everything. And at that time, I this thing which we just kind of saw and felt very disturbed by. But in 1997, when India was celebrating 50 years of independence, I we were invited for various exhibitions. It was a great moment.
Hmm.
Now, 50 years is a big time period. But I felt that still we have lots of problem
Hmm.
between the communities, no
Right.
great leadership, uh, uh, kind of a lot of I mean, poverty, lack of education to poor
Yeah.
people, so
Yeah.
many issues, which I thought, corruption, all this. So I think I started painting Gandhi.
Hmm.
I thought of Gandhi. I
Yes.
said, important, in our time, not just in India,
Absolutely.
everywhere, intolerance,
Right.
violence, all these things so obvious, the hatred between, people have for other fellow human being, all these things. I said, it's just, Gandhi is everywhere.
Yeah.
Every road is MG road, and there is a rupee note, his image.
Rupee note.
So I said that, well, actually, one need to, re-look at Gandhi.
Yeah.
So Gandhi came. But in 2000, when Tate Modern, the
Yeah.
museum in London, when they were doing the first major exhibition. It was about few cities, and one of them was Bombay. Every city was chosen for a specific time period, and Bombay was chosen for the last decade of 20th century.
Hmm.
The rise of underworld, terrorism, violence, all that, because we're concentrating. And I think I was invited, and then I thought, what if I do painting on shutters? And
Right.
that's initially my idea was about the shutter was that I would do some, since I love popular culture and Bollywood, and
Yeah.
Bombay is full of advertisement and all those stuff,
Right.
I something of that kind of a funny imagery will come. But till today, whatever shutters I have done, it's very serious, and it's about the social, political issues. It does sort of kind of, talk about those things as well. So I think first time I did shutters then, and then I've been doing on and off, the shutters. It's also like
Yeah. And you've been changing them. Yeah.
it's also painting, which is it's an object.
Yeah.
It's you don't just see with your eyes, but the viewer has to operate it, throw it up, pull it down, and you have to use your muscles to kind of
Yeah.
express the upper part. And when you open, there is no inside room or anything. The normally one would see, when the shutter door is open. But there is another wall and there is another painting on it. So the painting image at the top and painting inside all together makes, I thought, unusual experience. And I can have a different narratives talking about what is inside, what is outside, and probably something fascinating will happen. That's how the shutters originally came.
Right. I remember your Edward Munch
Yeah,
shutter,
yeah,
the Taj Mahal Hotel on top, 2611. It was,
absolutely.
it was so iconic. I mean, nothing could have expressed the city under siege better than that, I think.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that works
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
You talked about Gandhi, and in fact, that was my next question, Mr. Dodia, because we just celebrated 150 years of Gandhi, but somehow I feel that we just didn't do it properly. We sort of did it in a very cursory fashion. Even if they had just, and perhaps, I don't know, it's not just the government, but the Congress, for instance, could have done so much more.
Yes.
As a society, we could have done so much more. And when I think of your series, it is so iconic and it celebrates every aspect of Gandhi. What do you think? Do you think we missed the bus on this?
Well, actually, uh, well, there were articles, there were write-up, there were remembering in newspaper of Gandhi, but I think still, I what is important is the feelings
Yeah,
which human behavior that matters. I think in that sense we are still not
we
done.
just, yeah,
Yeah. There is a um, I mean, still the tension
yes,
between communities. The way the ruling government would be. Um, uh, of course, I mean, like let me just tell you something that. Last February, I was having a show in Delhi, and
hmm,
I visited Shaheen Bagh, you see,
hmm.
and I saw that how those people, the women, the children,
Women, yeah,
sitting there, and kind of protesting. It's whether it's a ruling party or not ruling party. I mean, the way they should have kind of handled that. You are part of us. You are our family. You should not be unhappy.
hmm.
That is something which I
Definitely.
feel is lacking. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that Gandhian spirit of embracing the other, that is something that we have lost.
Absolutely.
And when you see, and art cannot be divorced from society, it cannot be divorced from social change. So in a way, those women actually kept the Gandhian spirit alive, and perhaps those in power haven't, or those who occupy important places. So how do you think this period of social change is going to change the way we express ourselves creatively?
Well, yeah, one thing is that whether it's rich or poor, powerful or weak, whoever, everyone is is uh, concerned
Hmm.
with one's own life to begin
Yeah.
with. Obviously, everyone is scared of death.
Right.
Well, and no one can. It's not that. It's not that the only poor will have this, disease, and the rich people will not have. Nothing like that. So
Right.
everyone is become equal
Hmm.
in that sense. You see. And another thing I feel that I depends on each individual. People have not felt anything. People must have felt something, and but this time was definitely about introspection, meditation. It happened. It's not that intentionally one would like to do it, but you can't go out. You
Hmm.
can't do the regular duties which
Hmm.
one is performing in daily life. You had to stay back. You had to kind of retain the distance and be careful. So I think um, uh, something definitely, internally, each person must have been kind of, experience a unique thing,
Hmm.
which, but again, human beings and human mind are such that if tomorrow, suddenly, if the vaccine comes out, you will see it will be kind of again the same
Everybody will be back to.
this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So difficult to say, but I think, uh, well, as far as I'm concerned, I thought that let me just um, uh, do what I could do, and as an artist, as a well, great art is available, so that I have got a huge library, so I'm looking at the books and kind of reading something and all the time, and it was a special for me at least. Yeah.
I was thinking of your Stammer in the Shade series as well, because that again is so, you use so much of popular culture, and I just love that. You can see I have a weakness for popular culture, but that period of your work, it was a very exciting period. Talk a little about that.
Well, of course, that was the last show which I had in
Yes,
Delhi, and I
we saw
think
it in January, I think.
yes, it was. It opened
Yeah,
in, yeah, end of Jan, and
right,
full month of Feb it was there. So I think uh, that was very much about the great artists, the people who inspired me, with
yes,
whom I influenced, and learned so much, from the great minds and great works. So I think it was a response to those. So there were small baby shutters which
yes.
I did, and on top of it there was a detail of the photographs which I must have taken in European or American museums of a work of art, but not the full painting of Picasso or
Right.
Cezanne or somebody, but the part, the frame, and little bit of the
Fragment,
work
yeah.
and the shadow the frame would
Yeah.
create. So I think that it's just what I have been doing is just a kind of a stammering in the shade of these masters.
Right.
There is no statement, from my side, I would say.
No, but
But
humility itself is a great statement, I think. One sees so little of it,
yeah,
in life.
yes. So I basically, yeah. So then there were other paintings which were again, landscapes were there very much, and so I think maybe some shift has happened in my own work that now I feel. You see, we say as an artist we are free,
Right.
but uh, but are we really free? Because always, there are other elements, whether it's market, whether
Yeah.
it's other artists or the curators,
Yeah.
critiques, galleries, collectors, and there is always somewhere, some influence or pressure one feels, and accordingly one feels. So I try to sort of, break that thing
Yeah.
maximum time if I could do it, and not to follow rules and not to follow, what is market friendly probably,
Yeah.
so something, different. I should be happy. I should be excited. I should be baffled with my work. If I am baffled, then probably others will feel some new elements in it. So I think, uh, and I realize that no need to think whether my work belongs to this time. Is it a contemporary or it goes back to past or modern? Well, I could go in past also because that's artists could easily do. Some of the masters from 17th century or 15th century, I feel they are my contemporaries because I learned so much from them. I have a dialogue with them actually.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. So I think there is that kind of a relaxed, free this thing, and that's what something I have attempted in the Stammer Initiate as well.
Right. So, in a way, again, you were preparing yourself for this current phase, unknowingly, perhaps, where you've actually come back to a very pure form of art in a way, because, the world expects, say, another Rahul Dravid out of you, or, another one of those humongous paintings which go for, huge amounts, and you actually want to go back to, in a way, the purest form of art, individualistic. And is that something that's happening organically?
I think it is happening. I think, and I'm now since I'm coming to studios, every day. And in fact, today is my third day in the
Okay.
studio, full day in the studio,
Right.
and no assistant, no people, no one is able to come because local trains are still not working. So I'm alone, and I'm kind of thinking that if I shift from this small scale watercolors to large oil painting, probably the kind of more loose, relaxed, free,
Right.
uh, way of uh, creating, working was there in that thing. Same thing if I apply for even a larger scale, if I change my medium, even if I do shutters, probably it may happen. Or I have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating to see your own process of discovery, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I
Right.
think it's probably, and I also feel that well, it all depends on each individual. There may not be a dramatic shift at all. You
Hmm.
never know because all these years, what I did, it
Hmm.
has also a role to play.
Of course.
I arrived at something after working for 30, 40 years. So I think probably may not be drastic change, but at least this 4.5 months work has definitely will play a role. I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
Mr. Dodi, I'd also like to bring in, the element of community that perhaps existed a little more in the past than it does now. People like Shanta Gokhale and the Gandhis, it was such a wonderful community of artists and actors and writers, sort of would all be very much part of one community in Mumbai. Has Mumbai lost some of that sharing of experiences and creative ideas?
Uh, well, from an artist point of view, I would definitely say that when well, I don't like to talk in terms of past. That past was beautiful and everything was good, and
Yeah,
then
it's
not. Of course, you see what has happened now because of the internet and the the various media. Plays such a role that um, there used to be Skype, now we do Zoom, and in computer has changed. I mean, the world has come to our lap. I mean, otherwise we used to go to Strand bookstall,
yeah.
and buy books and all. Now we order on Amazon,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So or any other this thing. But what I when I was when I joined JJ School of Art in late 70s and early 80s, that period was very well. Senior artists were available.
Right.
Akbar, Tayyab Mehta,
Right.
very senior important artists. As a young student, we used to go. They were very generous with their time.
Right.
There were events were happening. Artists would go to plays. There used to be a school, it's still there, Chabilda School, where Marathi and Hindi plays used to happen, experimental plays, which I used to go and see. Then there were film society movement was there.
Right.
Also, we were a member of 2, 3 film societies, and there were festivals, and there were movies which were not easily available. So I think a lot of things are available at our home, but at the same time, the dialogue, the communication between the different musicians and art painters, writers, and probably poets, that is now um, much less.
Yes.
No, much less. They, when I have an exhibition, I invite all these people, and they do come also to my opening and to see my show. But the way it used to be, it was like a kind of a community,
Yes.
which is now not there. So it's just two, three friends and two, three people with whom we are in a constant touch. You share, things, but otherwise that sharing has gone, I
Yeah.
feel.
And some of it used to be captured so beautifully, even in the cinema of that era, Sai Piranjpe or Basu Bhattacharya. You see all those Jahangir Art Gallery, and it recalls a Mumbai. It was so wonderful. So I think that spirit is gone, but I think the creativity amongst all of you, you're still able to share, or you're still able to sort of discuss with each other what's going on in your life, or do you, does,
Not with a large friend. I mean, there are many friends, but
right,
it's very two, three friends, with whom I have
right.
a very serious dialogue about various aspects of one's own work, or if one has read a book or watch a movie or something,
Right.
that happens. Yeah.
What about mentoring? How do you do that, Mr. Dodiya, with young people?
Well, I tell you something, because I still remember my very first day of the Jesus School of Art, and I know that, the anxiety, the joy, the tension, the uncertainty of future,
Yeah,
which students has, because there's no, I mean, there's no straight away job you get.
exactly. You can't
So
go into a company and become an executive.
exactly. So I think I am fully aware of that. So when I exhibit, I often go to galleries, and students. I invite students to come and see the show. Or when Shanti Niketan or an art school in Hyderabad or in Baroda or wherever they invite me for a talk or lecture or residency, I go there and I share openly my techniques, my methods, etc. But then a lot of students wants to come, young artists want to come and meet me sometimes, which sometimes not possible. So I tell them to send me images via email, and they send me the PDF or whatever, and then I carefully see and then I respond.
Right.
I would advise, or I would say a few things which I feel that they should look into these aspects. So that very regularly I have been doing.
So that in a way is you paying it forward for what people did for you, what your seniors
Yeah,
did for you.
exactly. So so I think it's important to kind of have them confident in themselves.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's um, difficult. Like we were 35 or 40 students in my class at the J School of Art when we passed out. Out of that, only one or two people are painting. One
Right.
English friend, who is now no more. But otherwise, no one. So
What
what
are
they are
they?
doing, exactly.
What are they doing? You wonder sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So two, three friends I am in touch with, but I think they are not working. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
So what happened that this and so many art schools in the
Yeah.
country
Yeah.
from a different region and areas, and everybody wants to do art and painting, but um, then there is success and fame and name and all these things comes, and it is difficult actually, very
My last
difficult.
question to you, Mr. Dodia, was, the world has discovered public art now, but as I think your Shutter series, for instance, was public art much before the world thought of it. Especially in India now. What do you think of the level of public art that one sees now? There's some installations, some interesting wall paintings. What's your view of that? And should we have much more of it?
Well, actually, I think I know, of course, in a way, India is a huge country, big country,
Yeah.
so we should have many more museums, private museums probably, and more art galleries, etc. More collectors, because it's important, when work gets sold and work is, kind of placed in a good collection, and it's always encouraging. But otherwise, lot of young artists, my contemporaries, other friends, they have been doing working not just in a traditional medium like
Yeah.
oil paint, watercolor the way I do it, but with very diverse material, diverse medium has
Mm.
been used, and approaching very differently to a subject
Mm.
matter.
Mm.
Whether it's intellectual, political, social, all this thing has been kind of, and art is not just about certain aspect of emotion, but there are so many layers of our feelings living in the society, living in the world, all these things. So for that, that many diverse approaches are there. So I think in that sense, a lot of things are happening.
Yeah. In a way, the diversity in art is saving us from the singularity in our politics and in our
Yeah,
society. So, you're hopeful of Indian art as it is
very,
right?
very much, definitely. I think, yeah, as I said that, like one would like to, in a much bigger way, the government involvement or
Mm.
a private sector involvement, into art and culture. But what has happened, I must tell you that, as far as visual art is concerned, people are a little nervous, afraid. They
Mm.
feel we don't understand modern art,
Right,
and
right.
then feel that, because of they don't understand, why to indulge into
Yeah,
something they don't understand. So the
right.
cricket, cinema, the other popular things, which probably people are maybe looking more into
Mm.
those areas. But I think when it comes to fine art, when it comes to visual art, they find it bit difficult. So I think, but I for that. Just to go away is not the solution. One has to simply kind of confront, you
Yeah,
know, like I myself don't understand all the arts, which
yeah.
is happening or happening in the world or something. So, but I like to look at it, So once you kind of get acquainted,
Mm.
there is no issue. I think,
Right.
then
But
it could more,
yeah,
this thing. That is should happen more and more.
yeah. But that
And
also will happen if, sorry, yes, please go on.
saying that art is not only meant, the visual is only, okay, paintings are sold for a very high prices in
Right.
auctions, etc. It is not only meant, for rich people.
Yeah,
It's meant
exactly.
for everyone, like in city like Bombay, where I exhibit, where of course, the majority of, the collectors, they may be living in south of Bombay or something, but you see, Bombay is such a huge western line, central line, and all these people are equally important, and every try to respond in their own way,
Yes.
and you don't have to kind of understand the way in the context with the way art is created. You
Mm.
create your own context, you create
Right.
your own narrative when you are looking at a painting. All these things, if it is told again and again, it should start from school.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
And
then those kids will, because we've seen in abroad, in the museums, young kids are there,
absolutely.
museums, the Metropolitan Museum or Louvre or anywhere, and they are, being explained by a guide beautifully, all these things. I think that should happen. Then the fear of contemporary art, of
Yeah.
modern art, will go from people's head.
But it's also thanks to people like you who make it more playful and more
Yeah,
engaging.
yeah,
If you alienate people from your work, they won't be, they will feel intimidated. But you make it more playful for them, so they're able to relax and enjoy your work. That's very important, isn't it?
that's important. But you can't tell an artist that you don't do
To be
anything
clear.
creative. Can't do that. So I think it's just a question of each individuals, but the feelings, that's important.
Yeah,
Even if you do pure abstract work, pure minimal abstract work or something, but if there is a attitude of a highbrow attitude, that, oh, this is not meant for a common man. Like I would explain, all everything about my painting to my mother. She had no clue about modern or contemporary art, but she from the very beginning. Then there was never a issue or a question of that I don't understand this.
right.
She never said that, because like I was always available, I would share. And the way she would respond, I said, yeah, that's one way of looking at the work.
Looking
Which
at it. Yeah.
so I think if this kind of, if we take into confidence to these people, then I think that fear will go. And
Yeah.
then
Great. May I just ask one last question? I've been very intrigued by your backdrop. What is it?
well, I have struggled so much, you don't know what should be in the background, light wise, according
Right.
to quiet room and all these things. So it's one large painting which I wanted to have in the Stammer in the Shade painting actually show, but somehow it didn't work at that time, so it's unfinished. And it's
Okay.
the text written like on a blackboard, but
Right.
same text, it's a poem by one of the Gujarati poets, it's English translation, and it says a voice comes from behind.
Oh,
Imagine.
oh,
That's how it starts. Anyway, so but I will have to work on it.
okay. Great.
Background looks good.
What is the name of the poet?
The poet's name is Lav Shankar Thakur. He
Okay.
was an emperor, then he passed away 2 3 years back, and one of the major Gujarati modern poet,
Okay.
Lav Shankar Thakur.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Dodia. It was such a wonderful session. It seemed like a master class in
Oh
how
well,
how to enjoy art and how to relax and feel your emotions and when you're looking at something and not be intimidated by it. I think that was the most significant thing. I wish you all the best and many more paintings in the lockdown and
thank you
beyond.
so
Thank you very much. Thank you.